did you know?
I knew you had a secret. I mean, when you were little, you were so carefree. But these last few years, more and more, it's almost like I could feel you holding your breath. Being gay is your thing. There are parts of it you have to go through alone. But you get to exhale now, Simon. You get to be more you than you have been in a very long time.
Hello guys, it is Mark back with another video, and like I always say, don't be scared to fall because you may fall into a better situation. I like to feel like I'm a part of that better situation. You're already here, so you might as well subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into today's video essay. From tolerance to acceptance. As a parent, you go to the bathroom, you take a pregnancy test, it comes out positive. You're so excited. You're having your first child, or maybe this is your second or third. You instantly think about the future you want for your child. You think about the gender you want to have. You have it all planned out. 9.5 months later, he's here. You pick apart the features of his face, seeing which features belong to his father and which features belong to his mother. It never crosses your mind that your child may be homosexual. That never seemed possible, because there are no queer influences within your life, so how could there ever be some within his? You guys see his future, the mother and son bond, the father and son bond. Your bundle of joy couldn't be more perfect. 4 years later, you realize your son is different. He has more energy than usual. His interests don't look like what the other boys like. You noticed, for the first time you see something different in your son, something you're not ready to acknowledge. Therefore, you push it off as self-development, because after all, he is still young. You tell yourself to not overthink it, but as he gets older, you start to see more and more signs that he's a bit different. You become concerned. You question yourself. Where did I go wrong? Where did this come from? Why me? But you continue to be in denial. Is this something I did as a parent? Not realizing there's nothing you could have done differently. You swallow these thoughts. You move on. 5 or 6, you start to see that your son takes interest in hanging with the girls than the boys. Another sign he's different, you think. Now it's time for a conversation with both parents. It happens behind the scenes, but it's never brought up to their son. They don't want to influence or project something onto him that may not be his truth. So the conversation stays behind closed doors. It becomes something you and your partner actively work to combat. The goal is to ultimately have the son you dreamed of, right? You start to treat your son differently. You start to be tougher on him because you think that he's softer, testing his masculinity as he gets older to ensure he's headed in the right direction. In your mind, you find this necessary because you don't want to face the possibility of having a queer child. And what would his fate be if he were to end up gay? It's hard to think about. You dismiss it again. Let's just move on. What will others think of me? What am I going to do if he is? Where did I go wrong? Was he touched? So many questions, little to no answers. He's a teenager now. He's tougher, but more detached, distant. You don't understand why. He's smart, attractive, athletic in some ways. You've done all you could to keep him safe. He should be happy, but something is missing. You notice. Part of you remembers the person he used to be, the kid he wasn't allowed to be. You think, is that the disconnect? Is that the reason for the distance? More questions, no answers. Addressing who he used to be means acknowledging who you thought he was going to be, based off of how he acted. It feels better to act like this time in his life never exists. You never thought, as a parent, what if I was wrong about him? What if being gay isn't the worst thing he could be as a man? But one thing's for sure, you love him with all of your heart. There's nothing you wouldn't do for him. Every time you look at him, you see yourself. You remember how happy he once was, and something looks different. You feel guilty, immediately running from the thought that maybe you as a parent created this distance. You understand what goes around comes back around. But oftentimes what parents forget is you don't own your children. You simply just gave them life. Your responsibilities are to raise and guide, giving them space to grow into whoever they are. Denying someone the will to be themselves is not unconditional love. When you step in to force character onto a child during a time of development, you conflict their beliefs of self with your own beliefs, a mental cage, a performance of someone they never were. These walls get built up higher and higher. Even you can't see over them, because the focus has always been changed instead of making space for them to find themselves. He gets quiet because deep down he knows he's different, but doesn't want to admit it to himself. How different is he? You'd think he'd be happier. He's the social norm. He's normal. To him, he isn't. He's who he had to be, forced to be. He hasn't been himself in years, and nor has he felt like it. His parents have been strict on him since he was younger. He never understood why. He never got the answers. As he gets older, he starts to understand what being gay is, finds himself more attracted to young boys instead of the girls. He continues to be the version he was taught to be. This is who his parents wanted him to be. But he thinks, was who I was not enough? Is that why I feel so out of place? Is that why I feel like such a burden? So many questions, yet no answers. This sits on him. It also sits on his parents. They feel guilty not knowing what created the distance. Something feels off. A parent always knows, like he's lost his light, not realizing they had dimmed it. While trying to save him from being something they felt was not okay, they forced him into a box. For their own comfort, part of himself he now doesn't even recognize. No, this wasn't a parent's intentions. But what did you think would happen when you force beliefs onto someone else? A child conforms for safety, but it doesn't change who he is or was. He was never given the opportunity to find himself. He grieves the person he left behind. High school. He really likes someone. They lock eyes every day. He can't stop thinking about them until one day he gets the courage to talk to them. Without labels, you both feel the chemistry, a good connection. Without saying, you sense a deep connection. Eventually you two kiss. Nobody knows. Am I gay? He thinks. This moment of authenticity feels great, but scary. But he leans into it because it's the safest he's felt in a very long time. The safety he never had at home. While quietly having this revelation, he's found a piece of himself he dropped on the way up. He wasn't sure what he was. He always just knew he was different. Is this really not okay? Being with him feels perfect. Suddenly, it doesn't feel like something that's wrong. It feels like something that's natural. After months of secretly leaning into his queerness, a normal day, your son approaches you. Mom, Dad, I'm gay. Silence. You knew. You've seen it. Never thought it would come back to haunt you, but here it is. What now? You as a parent, you struggle to find the words. You know he's made his mind up if he has brought this to you, but you're still holding on to the son you envision. In denial. There's so many ways the story could go from this point, but the important question that a lot of parents are not ready to face when it comes to having a queer child is your love really unconditional? Can you love your child despite who they choose to love? This is the ultimate test. For a while, you tolerate him. You don't really speak on his sexuality. You're watching him bloom into the person he was always meant to be. As he tears down the layers that you and many more forced upon him, you see the light come back in him. It is then you as a parent you realize that this is what was missing. You're happy to see that he's happy, but you're sad too. There's no more distance. He's more open. All you have to do is be unconditional with your love and repair what you took part in breaking. It hurts grieving the son that you thought you'd have. Part of you would be in denial, still questioning yourself. The son who once seemed cold and detached now reminds you of the kid he used to be, full of light and love. When faced with this, some parents resort to anger, throwing their children out of the home, far too common. Sometimes there aren't signs, but sometimes there are. I believe parents know their children. If you make space to pay attention, most things are there. A lot of parents don't want queer children, but I think this is why we exist. To force parents to dig deeper into their love, to turn their worlds upside down about the love they have for their children, breaking those generational curses of homophobia. Take your time to grieve. The journey from tolerance to acceptance can be long for parents. Acceptance is what your son needs from you to keep that smile on his face. He could have kept his sexuality a secret and kept the distance between you two, but he loved you enough to tell you because he knows that your love is unconditional. Now it is your time to show him that it is. This is From Tolerance to Acceptance.